Yeah, thanks a lot, and I'm happy to have quite some experts up here today for the Internet of Things track. With me I have Zhao. She's the co-founder of Changing Environments, and she's also going to talk a little bit about her projects right after this introduction. And I have Dr. Susan Wegner. She's the VP of Internet and Services at the Deutsche Telekom Innovation Laboratories. Jeremy Abbett, he's a creative evangelist at Google, and Stephan Noller from nugg.ad. Thanks. So first, we're directly going to kick off with the keynote, right?
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, Philipp. So hi, everyone. I'm Zhao, and I'm wearing 2 pairs of shoes. So I'm the co-founder of Changing Environments, which is a Boston-based startup, and I'm also a PhD student at the MIT Media Lab. So I'm going to show you a little bit of both worlds. And the topic is going to be human in the loop with sensory prosthetics. Okay, here we go. So here's the MIT Media Lab. It's like it's a special lab. It's very interdisciplinary within MIT. And our director, he's this character. He dropped out of college, and he used to be a DJ, and then he is an early founder of Kickstarter and Twitter and Flickr. And when he has to describe the Media Lab, he says this is a place where talented researchers come together who didn't fit into traditional research field. So you can imagine like a room full of people at the edge of existing research fields. When they come together, something new will emerge out of it. So for example, e-ink displays or Guitar Hero or Lego Mindstorm, foldable cars, and research that has led to Google Glass actually have roots in the Media Lab. And to give you a short idea of what the Media Lab is working on right now, so on the left upper hand there is Professor Hugh Hare working on prosthetics, and the right upper hand there is a group called Mediated Matters. They work on bio-inspired digital fabrication. So what you see there is a house, a pavilion that's actually partially created by 4,000 silkworms. And then there's neuroscience, there's big data, there's personal robots, understanding how to create robots that you can trust. And then there is also Professor Hiroshi Ishii working on what's after graphical user interfaces. Could be tangible interfaces where we communicate with the computer using objects instead of pixels. Okay, so I can see the Media Lab, it's dealing with a bunch of diverse questions, and it's coming together 20 or something research group, and each of them is dealing with a different question. And the research group I'm in is called Responsive Environments, and my advisor, my professor, is Joe Paradiso, is leading this group. And what you see here is a drawing that he made over a decade ago to show his vision about sensor networks, where it's going to go. And in short, he believed that sensors will experience something similar with a Moore's law, that will become more cheap and more available, more low power, and they eventually be connected in almost anything. And once that happens, he imagined that we will see these sensors or the sensor network as extension of our nervous system into the environment. And so this image, like you can say, is basically his understanding of internet, of sensors. And I really like this image, even though people have different opinions about it. But if you look closely, you always discover new things. There's eyes on the left side, and there are all kinds of sensors on the right side. And then somewhere in the middle, you see that connects everything. It's a face of a cat. And so Joe already predicted that cats will be a big thing in the internet, kind of. So here is like a arrangement of research project that's coming out of my research group. And just say a few words about each of them to give you an idea of what people are thinking about. So on the left upper hand, Spinner by Laboratories, it's a very old project, but I just want to show it because it has like data and privacy aspect to it. So what you see there on the top, it's similar to what we know today as kind of a smartphone and a smartwatch, but that was before smartphone became available. And so his idea was to install these things around a building and have people wear the watch, and to create documentaries about the people who inhabited the building. So cameras are constantly recording you, and the video footage is tagged with sensor data coming from the wearables, which are kind of physical activity and your emotions, your arousal level. And so at the end of the day, you can do something like cut a video for me that shows my entire day where I was social, or shows my day where I was excited. And using this, the footage and the tagging, you would be able to do that. And you can imagine that not every people wants to be part of this documentary who comes in the building. So where naturally, on the very right end, the no-no badge was developed after this research project. Basically, you press the button and all the footage around you will be erased. So that's to protect people from being in the movie. And also we work kind of with different kind of sensors, for example, using inkjet printing, creating flexible circuits. And what you see here on the left-hand side, these squares, that's a carpet with printed sensors, and it can detect your gait, and also has a GSM antenna, and it can identify your cell phone signal, so match the feed to the signal. And underneath that, that's a combination using depth camera and RFID tags to do real-time skeleton detection throughout the building. And the idea here is to basically enable you to gesture control everywhere in the building. And on the right top, that's like some of my research projects, which is combining sensors with actuators to actually really close the loop in a smart environment. And so we think a lot about lighting, so thinking about lighting has become more efficient, but during the time where it became more efficient, we also have much more lights. We kept on installing more lights, and the control problem has become more complex, and people just keep them all the time on. So we want to encourage people to actually put lights on only where they need using, I want to describe two different methods. One is using a connected light sensor, that you just mark an area where you want light, and the sensor knows which lights are contributing to this area, and then boom, you have light in this area and not anywhere else. And the other one's using this wrist key, which is designed by Brian Maiden, is a wearable that you wear on your wrist, and you can point at the light source you want to control and then dim it or make it brighter. So there are a lot of things out there. And when we think about this internet of sensors, so today, where are we now today? So if we take a second to think about what are all the sensors in this building, and you realize we're already there. So like all the cell phones in this room, all the RFID tags in your wallet, and maybe Fitbits that you wear, like health trackers, and the RFID reader in the elevator, and thermostats in each of the rooms, so that we are already surrounded by these connected sensors that are sending the data somewhere. We just don't see it. It's invisible to us, but visible to specific applications. And this visibility and this transparency is very important when it comes to talking about privacy and trust. So I want to show you an example of research, what we are doing in the Media Lab in my group, about what it would mean if we can see all this data. So I hope this works. So this is the Media Lab building, turned transparent. And this is a 3D model in a game engine, so you can walk around it like in a normal video game. And all these different symbols, colors, fog, and weird things, they all are real-time sensor data streamed into this application called the Doppel Lab. And if you go to doppellab.media.mit.edu, you can see in real time what's happening in the Media Lab right now. And here you can hear people talking, but the voice is crumbled, so you cannot understand what they're saying, and it's crumbled on the hardware before it's transmitted. But you get a sense of what's happening in space. You can see the sensors, the motion sensors, and you can see people passing by RFID readers, and then it shows up their profile. And then you can see location-based tweets from in this building. This is an event where there are a lot of people coming in. And you can speed up time to see how the building transforms from night to day, from week to week. And here's the smart ping pong table. It's also uploading in real-time data about people playing ping pong. And you can see statistics that the right side tend to be better for some reason. And when you zoom out, you had this view that you cannot have normally about this building. And here you can see on the left side, these are all the thermostats. It's warmer than the right side. And this is like a common problem people would have. Like you call the facility manager, say, hey, my office is too hot. And then the same amount of number of people already called and say, oh, my office is too cold. So they don't know where the problem is. So with this tool, you can identify failure on a larger scale. Yeah, so these are not even all the data that's inside this building. There are all the cell phone data that's not even up there. But just imagine how it would be like if you could see them all. So I'm gonna skip a few slides and go to talk about my startup, which is called Changing Environments, not to confuse with Responsive Environments, which is the research group. So this is my two co-founders and me. We are all German, but we met in the US. And we had this problem that you probably know really well, that our phones are constantly low on power. And you can see now in conferences, people in suits sitting on the floor, gathering around sockets. And so the plug has kind of become the new water cooler where social interaction happens because people are trapped there. And there you go, phone. So we wanted to design, so first to let you charge your phone with green power, solar power, but then also while you're doing it, to give you a nice environment that's outdoors, to get people to go outdoors, and to get people to be social, to sit there and relax and enjoy the environment. So together we came up with this product called SUFA, which is this solar-powered bench, and we found it at the beginning of this year, and we did a pilot in Boston with 12 benches sponsored by Cisco and Verizon. And it has been an amazing summer, I have to say. We were invited to the White House Maker Faire, and President Obama sat on our bench and chatted with us about smart urban furniture. And also Mayor Welsh from Boston, he really supported us in all our doing. And the best thing is actually people just love the bench, and they have really emotional response when they see it, and it's amazing because they just understand what it does. When we installed the first bench in Boston Commons, which is kind of the equivalent to the Central Park for Boston, New York Central Park, Boston, and it took 2 minutes after we stepped away. The first, it was a girl, she came and started charging. And we were curious who she is. We asked her. She is a nurse, and she was visiting her son, and who was working at that time. And she saw the solar panel and the USB plug, and she immediately understood what it was for. And also, people become expert on solar charging, hanging around the bench. Like kids will walk by when we do our installation or do our upgrades, and they will point at it and say, Daddy, that's a solar charging bench, and they start to explain to their parents what it does. So people become really experts around, and we really want them also to have this conversation, to see the solar panel, to touch the solar panel, and then to think about how this urban environment could change, what upgrades the city should do. And it has been an interesting experience. So coming back a little to the hardware, these benches are also connected to the internet, so they are streaming up data about how much solar power it's getting, what's the level of battery charge, and how many people are using it, and you can see that on the website. And you can imagine this is a perfect spot for sensors, because it's at areas, high-value real estate where people really care about this area, they really care about the environment, and there are people around it, they want to spend time there. And also the power is there already, and the enclosure is there, so it's almost, it should have sensors. So that's what we are working on right now. We want to put noise sensors, air pollution sensors in there to communicate to the people what other things that they don't see about their environment is there. And I think this internet of sensors and urban sensing will come. It will, when we look at numbers, 300 million people going to move into cities in China until 2020, which is crazy because that's like the population of the entire US. So sensors will come, they will be necessary for us to know about urban, how we use our urban spaces, how to optimize our urban spaces, and we want to be there when this happens. So when we, I'll skip this, when we come back to Zhao, my advisor's vision about sensor as extension of human nervous system, and we just go with this metaphor for a little bit and really think, oh, when we install these sensor networks out there, they'll actually become a new sense for us, a sense that go beyond of our senses today. So when that happens, and I just want to finish this talk with this saying, in the country of blind, the one-eyed man is king. And thank you.
I don't need. Just to go have a seat. All right. Thanks a lot, Nan. Very interesting. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the SUFA project. Is it? I mean, it's a outdoor power plug, so to say. How smart, actually, could it be in the future?
How smart? Yeah, it's. So power is the power and real estate is where it starts, I think. So when you have both, like your mind can go crazy and think about all the things it could be. So we, while doing this this pilot, we talked to many people. We talked to the people using it. We talked to the city, and we learned that cities are really looking for a way to communicate, to connect with the citizens, to understand more what they need in the space. And there was ideas of having location-based surveys where people can like write down what they like about the neighborhood, what they don't like about the neighborhood, and also cities and parks want to give people information about the space, like historical information or what birds are in the park, and they are really interested in these kind of things. And also the bench itself, when we think about people like to write their names on the bench and say, I was here, A loves B. And so we think this bench is a very social place that connects different people. And this is where we want to think in the future. It could become a platform that has the sensors inside, that has power, that has people who come to it. And when we open it up to developers, game developers, or to the city, what kind of application could they come up with to connect with these people? So we're now thinking about moving to a direction where this bench could become a platform, and with the scaling effect, it could be much more than just charging.
Okay. Yeah. All right, cool. Jeremy.
Yes.
At Google, you're always on the front line.
I have another question.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. I would like to know if you are planning another pilot in other countries, in other areas.
Yeah. So we got inbounds from all over the world, also a lot from Europe, and we are planning to do another rollout until next year for another 100, so from 10 to 100, and we are definitely also really interested in coming to Germany. We talked to RWE, and but right now we are there, so we start with our backyard and then move on. Yeah.
Would the Telekom like to buy a couple of those benches?
We can make them pink.
Magenta.
Magenta, oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe an option. So, Jeremy, you're always like on the front line when it comes to new technologies with Google and everything, especially, for example, projects like Loon, where you want to provide power via balloons in the air. Is it something that is actually really a business for the future, or is it more like or is it marketing?
I don't think it's marketing, because if you know our mission statement, organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful, I think it speaks to that, and basically everything we do at Google speaks to the mission statement. So for Loon, the idea was people that don't have internet access, how can you give them access? And I think maybe the balloon isn't the last form factor or the last iteration, but I think definitely there's something there about how do you bring the last 5 billion people online. And I think so in that regard, it's not marketing, because obviously a lot of the projects you see, like the driverless car and glass and stuff, there's no public mention of it for a couple of years before we actually show it. So I don't think it's really marketing. It's more about this idea of, how do we address our mission statement? How do we bring the next 5 billion people online?
Is it something Google would invest in, like Nan's project?
I think so. I mean, we work a lot with the Media Lab. We I don't know if you saw the prototype we had. I forgot the name actually. Basically, it's a delivery system. It's a drone. It starts off vertically, and then it's a flying wing. But we worked together with a professor at MIT for 2 years. So we made a deal. Basically, I think it was 2 years. He said, "Come help us get this going, and then after 2 years, you can go back to academics." And so I think that's something we're definitely interested in, working with schools that are very, forward-thinking and pushing things forward.
Okay. Stephan, so you're heading a predictive behavioral targeting company, and this is the Internet of Things panel. What are you doing up here?
This is the reason why I think I'm allowed to be on this panel. Because what you can see here is an Internet of Things device developed by my company, and which is indeed a predictive targeting cloud B2B service thing, if you like. So what we do is we provide clients, publishers, media agencies with algorithms and a service that helps them to identify audiences for advertising. And the thing is that, as I figured that these Internet of Things stuff is coming, and I was interested, and I thought, well, this could play a role for our business as well. And the idea was that what we are doing, and this applies for many B2B and cloud services, is no longer tangible, right? So in a sense, the cloud makes services disappear from out of the rooms of people who are using it, out from the desks. So suddenly things are somewhere in the cloud. Often you even don't know, where your service is running, whether it's Europe or US or anywhere in the cloud. So things are really disappearing, and this is an issue, for a business who wants to stay in contact with the client, who is paying a monthly bill and who is using the service. So it is absolutely an issue to make things tangible and let people see what is going on in this service. So we created this little thing. It's a Raspberry with a display and a few LEDs. I love LEDs, and a switch on top. And what it does, so the client puts it on his desk, connects it to the internet, and then it connects to our cloud and retrieves KPIs. It tells how are things going, what the response time of the cloud currently is, how many campaigns are running, some statistical stuff, and so on. So you could say it's a kind of a dashboard in a retro kind of style, but it's completely the idea, to use the Internet of Things for business purpose, to bring back the service into the room of the user of the service and make it visible and tangible. So that's my contribution to this, and I really think, because most of these Internet of Things applications are in a B2C offering, obviously, so consumer products basically, and I really think there is room for applications in a business environment as well, and that's one of the examples.
What are the responses of your customers? Do they buy the product?
I hope. I mean, some of the customers are sitting here, and we haven't shipped yet. Some beta clients received the first device. But there are customers in the room who haven't got it yet, so I hope that there will be a lot of demand. And by the way, there's a social function built in as well. So it has a flashlight on the bottom, which has a pulse. So if you put it on your desk, you will see a blue light flashing on the bottom of it, and the pulse reflects how the relationship is going. So the person in charge of the client in my office puts in 0.7, which means everything is quite okay. So then it pulses like someone sitting relaxed in his chair, and if the client is messing around. Sometimes this happens because he suddenly wants to change the ad server, or he fired all the relevant people, and suddenly we are in trouble. Then it will flash and he will see, oh, obviously they think something is really going on here, perhaps a positive thing, perhaps a negative, perhaps I should care, or it can go very slow and then it should send out the signal that, well, we're close to falling asleep, in this partnership, perhaps I should give them a call. Yeah. So it's also a kind of social device, if you like, to stay in contact with our clients. And
nice.
if they push the button, by the way, it's what we call the yeah button. It sends a yeah request into our office, and then something flashes, and we get an email. And that's the way how the client can express if something is really going well. If they think, wow, that's amazing, this new product, I like it, or everything is fine, push the button. Yeah.
Are you going to go further in this direction, building hardware? Or is this more like a...
That's a tough question, because I must say, we are a total software company since 8 years. And this little experiment into hardware was really, hardware is really something different, because suddenly you have to ship, physical goods, and it breaks, and power requirements, and everything gets definitely more physical, and things are, like updating the guys, or checking whether they are connected. All these, everything gets much more complicated. This is really, this a challenge, and I don't know whether we will turn the company into a hardware company, but it was an amazing experience so far. Yeah.
Okay, talking about complications. Susan, the Telekom man. Who knows the Telekom man? I guess lots of people. So as long as there's no physical damage actually in the network, do we still need people like the Telekom man to fix our internet or provide services?
Yeah, you need it because you need the access. And if you look at the example with all the Internet of Things, I don't know if you know that we already set up a special unit where we look especially at Internet of Things and working together, and you need the connection, you need the backbone, you need everything there. If you don't have that, it's not working. And if you look in the mobile environment, and if you look at the Internet of Things, so we started the unit 3 years ago, and probably it's already well known that we have, like, for example, with Class, a first pilot 2 years ago, where we looked in the short time you have in summer for the harvester, because the machines are really expensive there, and you really have to look and optimize everything, like the driver, the machine, where you put the grain into. And what we found out was with the first pilot, we connected everything, analyzed it, and went into the analytics there, and we got really very good cost efficiency. And the result was that we now have, from our system side, going further into that area to really look what is in there, and they were very impressed because they got a lot of cost saving there, even for a pilot.
Mm-hmm. What are the general challenges for a big operator when it comes to Internet of Things, lots of data connected to different devices?
Yeah. So from an operator side, you probably know analytics. It's not new for an operator. Mm. So what we did in former times is we did it like in our business units. We did it with marketing, technology, CRM, and we have a lot of specialists there, but we didn't use our new technology there. So what we see right now is that we have to connect the different units, that we have to put different insights in there, that it's not enough that an IT guy is coming or that a marketing guy is coming. You need a mixed team, and you have to mix all together. And especially if I'm speaking about Germany, you always have the privacy issue, and you always have the communication issue. And you really have to look at that one, and you have to really be connected within the company. And what we did is we put together a team within Deutsche Telekom, from all our countries, from all our business units, to at least have like a connection there, to have transparent things there, to come over these hurdles we have, to bringing like all the things into place. Just one example, like when we started, we had 7 Hadoop clusters within Deutsche Telekom, and that's too much. So you can say, okay, you need like 1 or 2, that's okay, but you don't need 7 because it would cost a lot of money, and not everyone needs a Hadoop cluster under his chair. So you have to look at that one. And then you have use cases where you, for example, need more people, different people. For example, for the fraud detection, we're always looking at that one, looking at for a long time. And what we saw is that normally we need, because of the huge data we have, we need like 1 or 2 days to discover something, and we put it into our Hadoop cluster, and then we got the same result within 10 minutes. So for us, it's really worth even to go for the use cases we already work on to look what else we can do with it.
Stephan, you wanted to say something?
I have a nice example, from our experience, why telecom operators can play a role. So. Yeah. The Internet of Things is about connecting Internet or putting Internet into the things, right? And this is not an easy thing, because the Raspberry can be put into the Internet by plugging in a network cable. That's one option. You can plug in a Wi-Fi dongle, then it has to connect to the Wi-Fi. But if you send this to a client, you don't know the Wi-Fi password, right? And the client, it doesn't have a keyboard, right? So it's not an easy thing to connect that to the Wi-Fi. Therefore, we thought, yes, okay, then they have to plug in a cable, but this requires a DHCP server and the network to be configured in a way that it's allowed for these guys, to connect automatically. So it's really a tough thing, to get them online in a secure way. And I chatted to Alexander, the designer of the Goodnight lamp, who gave the first keynote yesterday morning. And she said, the Goodnight lamp is on by default, so you plug in the power, it's immediately in the Internet because it has a mobile chip included with a special SIM card designed for machine-to-machine communication, which is important because it's much cheaper than any SIM card I could get from Deutsche Telekom today, I guess, and otherwise it wouldn't work. And it works also because it is transferring only very, very limited data. So for a telecom provider, it's an easy thing to provide. She said something like €3 per year, per device, for coverage in all countries, all networks, roaming, everything included. This is a very crucial thing, If you want to get things online, we need an easy way to put the Internet in. Balloons might be a way as well, yeah. But
that's the hard way.
That's really, you think, yes, of course, we plug in the Internet everywhere. If you send out a hardware device and want it to be securely connected to the net by a consumer who is perhaps not technical, that's a crucial point. If it's immediately on, brilliant, yeah. And that's something, where telco providers, mobile operators can play a crucial role, to provide these kind of services, infrastructure. The infrastructure is there. It's basically a SIM card and a contract that we need.
Yeah.
Does your product has a on and off button?
Yes, but it's not accessible to so it's supposed to be out of the box. You just open it up and put the bench there, and it's all set. But for myself to debug, I put an on/off button. But yeah, we worked together with Verizon on this project, and I think it was interesting to see where they are and the alignment where it worked, and also a lot of disalignment of what they thought is the product that's M2M needs and what we needed was not the same thing. Yeah, and I think it was good that they had this innovation program and connected us with all these people and gave us help basically to think about what is, and also connect us to them, right? That we become their customer in some way, or we mutually help each other to get into a new field.
We had some project looking for that one from the innovation side. I don't know if you know Geisha Jost, probably you know. She had some project going into that direction.
Very cool. I should look. Yeah.
Let's talk about privacy. Don't you think your customers or the users of your bench might be afraid to plug in their phones and they don't know what's happening, even if it's connected, especially when it's connected to an internet?
They're desperate.
They're desperate?
For power.
For power, okay, so they'll do anything.
They'll do anything.
Okay.
No, we don't have anything in there that would do that. So actually, there are new products on the market where it's kind of, I would call it the safer charge, the SB condom in some way, where it basically cuts the data connection between where you plug it in and your phone to make sure that nothing is exchanged. But that's not something that we want to do. I think it's also not legal.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's very interesting, because dealing as an operator with data, you always have to look at your customer side. And what we did, and what we normally do in our research project, like we have teams where we're going from the customer side, looking into like the project and the ideas, and we ask these teams to look what do the customers think about privacy, what is the expectation of big data, and that was very interesting. And at the keynote, it was really the result there that trust and transparency are the basic things there. And we got really the feedback, if we know what you're doing, then it's better for us to understand everything. If you hide something, that's bad. So trust and transparency, and truly, if you use the data personalized, you always need like the opt-in of the customer.
Stephan, you're a big evangelist on privacy, right? So, and your company as well. What is your take on that?
Well, again, I have to refer to Alessandra's keynote yesterday, because she gave a very awesome example of how this could work for the Internet of Things. She said, you know, there should be a declaration or even a law or something that says every Internet of Things device has to have a QR code or something. By the way, it has a QR code, but it points to our website or to the app that is working with it. But she meant something different, you know, a QR code which delivers this kind of transparency in a way that it links to a standardized website, which gives you immediately the information, what is this thing doing? Is it tracking anything? Can I see the data? Can I delete it? Can I download it? So it's kind of a very straight idea, you know, like nutrition information, if you like, you know, on the device. So you could always see, is it tracking something? Yes or no? You know, the label would show that immediately. Then you scan the QR code, you see the website, yes, there's my data. Oh, it looks interesting. I can download it to do some owner analysis, but I can also delete it and say I don't want this or something like that. Or anonymize it, for example, you know, to say, yes, you can use it, but I don't want it linked to my personality, so please anonymize it, something like that. I think this is crucial, you know, because Internet of Things and wearables, and this means the sensors are really getting close. So I see a sensor very close, a wear sensor here, a very complex one, you know. So and you want to have control over this data more than ever. You know, it's surfing behavior is one thing. It's kind of distant compared to a lamp which is in your bedroom and controls or knows when you sleep or not. You know, this data is much more relevant when it comes to privacy, and I think that could be a way, you know, to tackle that.
I think, to address that as well, I think if you think about data and stuff, I think one thing we have to focus on is also education, you know, like in the primary school and stuff. What does that mean? Because obviously I have a face computer on, but a lot of people carry their phones in their pocket, you know, and that even has more sensors than this thing, you know. So I think it starts with people that care about it, like us. But also the people that don't really care about, how do you make them more aware of it? It's like the theme of global warming. Obviously, we're going to be, I just read something like in the next 40 years, you know, or in the last 40 years, half the wildlife has been pretty much gone away.
Perished.
So I think data is also a thing where, in privacy, it starts in the schools, and that's where it starts, I think. You have to educate people on it. And also, what's the balance? I think people are more open to things if there's a payoff. Like you're going to eat a big, if you're really hungry or if you need power, let's say there's a big chocolate cake there, and you know the consequence of the chocolate cake, but you're going to get it. You want it because the payoff is immediate. So I think the privacy thing, obviously, everyone has to be aware. I think you have the U.S., which is very liberal, and then you have Germany, which is very conservative. But if you just start with children, like what does that mean to share data today? What does that mean when you take a photo of someone and put it online? I think that's where we have to start, and I think that's something that all countries are. We're addressing this idea of kids have to learn how to program or develop, machine language. But what about the ethics of data and privacy? I think that's more interesting to some degree.
Okay. Oh, you want to say something?
So I was thinking that this QR code and have like this nutrition facts would be amazing, but we need also to have that for already existing things. But because as you see, the sensors are already there, we are already pinging a lot of data out there, and it's being captured, and we just don't know that much about it. So it should also work backwards to the things that already exist.
I agree, Nan, but I think we could, so this is a new kind of era that we suddenly, the internet is disappearing from the screens and moving into the things. And perhaps we can start, doing it better at that time. And then if this standard, gets adopted and suddenly you see, oh, these new devices are much more transparent and much more controllable, and I can download all the data all the time, control it. It will have an influence back, right? So online services will then get under pressure and say, oh, we clearly have less transparency than these devices. We have to look at it.
Jeremy, to you again. I would like to take it a bit more in the future. Everybody knows the Nest deal, Boston Dynamics, et cetera, et cetera. How smart are those devices going to be in the future? Will it be artificial intelligence? Or how's it going?
How many of you have seen the movie Her by Spike Jonze? Her? So I would suggest you go out and see that, because I think that's really nice. I mean, it's not dystopian. Usually when you see movies about the future, it's Blade Runner. It's Blade Runner-esque. It's dark and stuff. But Her is the premise is basically that the main protagonist, the actor, he falls in love with his operating system. And so it's like, think about Siri is the operating system, but it's Scarlett Johansson, so it's a little sexier than Siri. But I think that's definitely the direction we're going, is artificial intelligence. I don't think it's going to be in the next couple years, but I mean, you can see the direction where everything's heading, and it's this idea of singularity. You talked about the sensors as part of your extension of who you are. And McLuhan talked about that as well, the extensions of man and electricity and the stuff we do. And artificial intelligence will definitely be a huge part. And that's why Google is interested in, like the mission statement I talked about, like buying companies like the big artificial intelligence companies. But that's definitely where I see everything going as well.
Are you working on artificial intelligence, Susan?
Oh, no. Because so I can speak only from the innovation side, because we have really focus areas, and we are not working on that one at the moment. It's a little bit integrated in like the data analytics things, but not as a special topic.
Okay. I have a general question. I would like to hear maybe a thought of you four guys. Who will be the middleman of the Internet of Things in the future? So will things interconnect, say your Nest with your fridge and your Fitbit, or will those be singular devices or siloed devices? What do you say?
I'm not sure I understood correctly.
Do you think those all right? Do you think those the devices will connect with each other automatically? So your fridge to your Fitbit, for example, and tell you, what you have to eat because of how you feel? Or will you have like a central station, that crunches all the data and gives the advices?
I think so. What I see right now is how these sensors can help us to make the decision less complex. So like, for example, the lighting example that we said, with all the lights in here, we could use the sensors, but still keep the human in the loop while controlling it, but makes the problem, more feasible. And that comes maybe to the artificial intelligence, or something goes into the direction that these, the algorithms of mapping between the actuators and what it presents to you could go as far as one can imagine, that it can suggest really like Netflix problem, really what you want next, or it could just help you to not stand up and turn up your thermostat from your phone. Like, there is a big range where I see this could work out.
Okay. What do you say?
I would say, I'm not sure if you really need something central, but what I believe is that the user want to have the control about it. And in either way, either you have it on the devices that you have to say something, or you connect it to your phone or something like that, somewhere where the user can see everything, have control, what is connected to what, and because some things are very clear, like the variables, and that the feedback we got. So I believe you need some time, some kind of control, at least if they are automatically collected, that you have somewhere a dashboard where you see everything.
I mean, stuff that we've already, I think it's already been out that Nest has collaborations with Up and with the Jawbone and stuff like that. So I think it's a matter of, things are already connected. It's a question of what do you want connected? And the easiest way to get into this whole idea of connecting things is look at the website. If this, then that, which is basically like a service that connects different things. So I created a Twitter bot, and basically it's called Believe in Bob Ross. And I refer to as he, it's a bot basically. He just retweets stuff from Instagram, whatever. And I used if this then that to connect, I mean, you could do it through the API, through the programming. But if this then that does things like, one thing I have it for is when I use Foursquare and I check in here, it sends my check-in to my Google Calendar, so it's like my alibi, so I can see, okay, I've checked into NHO Hotel and stuff. So I think, to your question, I think definitely that's where it becomes interesting, when things become connected. And that's exactly what I think at MIT, at the Media Lab, you touched on it a little bit, but also Telekom, you kind of touched upon it about the hurdles, is basically when things are separate in silos, that's when innovation does not happen. And when things are connected, that's when things start happening. And I think same with predictive targeting or predictive marketing, I don't know what you call it, but I think that's when it becomes interesting, when you connect all these things together. But obviously you get back to the privacy issue then.
Yes, I mean, if the question is, will it stay in silos or will it be connected? It clearly, I mean, Internet of Things, to a certain extent, only makes sense if things are massively connected between each other. And it's not only if you think of a house. I mean, the guy from Digitalstrom yesterday gave this example, of how many sensors you would have in a house. It only makes sense if there's a central unit that gives you control and apples and even intelligence, because you don't want to control every thermostat in every room by your own. So this already cries for a central server or unit or whatever, and if you then think your car should speak to the house, because heating should go up if you approach the house, then it gets broader. Then the car should speak to the house. Therefore, the whole thing should be in a cloud and not in your home server. And what I see is this is also a kind of a war front, because there will be huge clouds with sensor data, with these guys connected to them, and it is one of the big questions for the near future: who will be the owners of these clouds? And I'm afraid there's a good chance that as a consumer, it will completely get out of control, because you won't check, if a temperature sensor is in your shoes. Perhaps most people won't even think once, where this data is going or whom it is belonging to or in which algorithm it is feeding. So I really think there's a good chance that this completely, in a sense, gets out of control and is owned by someone, and I'm not looking to my left at the moment, and used for something, and this is really a challenging thing.
Okay. So I think we have time for questions out of the audience. Is there anybody who would like to address a question? There's a microphone back there. No questions at all? Ah, there's a question.
Yeah, regarding your request in the direction of the Deutsche Telekom, the new IP version 6 standard got a lot of IP addresses, so probably it's possible for the Telekom to provide the Internet of Things guys with little plug-and-play USB modules with built-in SIM cards. Everything is ready for 10 euros a year, something like that, with a static IP address. So the problem isn't not only get online, the problem is to reach the machine when it's in field. So maybe for if you ship 1,000 of these boxes, you don't want an engineer to travel all locations and flash a firmware update. You can do it over the internet, but only if you reach your machine. And so you need a static IP address. So maybe it's a kind of protectionism from the side of the telcos, because neither Telekom nor O2 or anybody else provide us in Germany with cheap cards. I saw this in, I think, Austria. They got machine-to-machine SIM cards with static IP address, very cheap. So do you have it on your timeline to provide us and open the market for innovation, or is it your business and now you try to get on the market and bring your own products?
Yeah, yeah. As I told you, so as I told you, we set up a unit to really working on M2M at that point, and the current focus is really the B2B area. And right now we are putting everything together. So as you can imagine, we are a big company, so it takes some time. And I cannot tell about what we really will provide you in the future, because that will be over a press release at that point. But we are working on that one, and we are putting actually since July, we have the unit a little bit longer, but as you has it in a big company, there were different parts, and what we did, we are putting all the silos together, so from the marketing side, from the technological side, so that they are all integrated in one team. That was a little bit of a hassle before, because they were all separated.
So is there anybody else who would like to? Yeah, back there.
Hi. So I'm interested in the bench and the further development of it. You said that you would open it up to cities to decide what applications would come on there, and you're very curious what those would be. But I'm sure you have your some ideas of your own, and I'm very interested to hear some of them. So where could this go? Granted, privacy is taken care of, and let's hear the utopian view.
That's why she's in the U.S. now.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I don't see too much privacy concerns with because like with your phone, you are already telling everyone everything. Anyway, what kind of application we can see? So a few things that I'm interested in is location-based services in terms of location-based games, maybe, or to understand these benches. So because they are something new in the environment, and we design it in a way that it's pretty popping out. It doesn't just blend in the environment, kind of like the telephone booth back in the day. And so they could become these iconic places where, for example, you can imagine, like for tourism, who wants to get connected to internet, who needs power, and also information where to go. You can imagine having maybe augmented signs on the bench that shows you where the next attraction is, and also location-based games. So we have been trying out the Google game. Ingress. It's very big, and people actually it's a good combination, because people who play Ingress also have a big power problem, because it drains your phone immediately, and it also like makes you go everywhere. So if these benches become Ingress portals, it's actually perfect. Yeah, so these are some of the things we're thinking about.
I think we're, yeah, back there.
Thanks. I would like to come back to Stephan Noller's last statement. He painted out a quite dark scenario of huge data clouds where all the happy data lies, who benefits us all, but no one knows to whom it belongs. And so he said, I don't want to look to my left, but I would like to ask you, Jeremy.
I thought he was talking about Susan. He was talking
I would like to ask you, what do you think about that? Do you think, oh, no, it's all just happy data, no problems, humanity is good, and everything will be fine? Or what's your answer?
So about the data question, you should actually ask Philipp. He's from Protonet. But I think, obviously, just like when telecoms came around, right? I moved to Germany a long time ago, like 1995. And I remember Deutsche Telekom was owned by the government, right? So, and at some point, just like in the US, you had the bells and then the breakup of the bells. So I think when it comes to innovation and stuff, you have people and companies that are really forward-thinking, doing the innovation and doing the pioneering. So you're going to have a few clusters of companies. Like you have Amazon, you have Google, of course, you have Microsoft with their Azure stuff, and you have alternatives like Protonet. So I think there's definitely going to be different clusters. I think, and as far as Google goes, we're pretty transparent for what we do. You can find like all the ads you click on stuff. You can go to a dashboard and see all that stuff. But I don't think it's a dystopian. You know, it's not. I don't see a Blade Runner-esque future. It's, for me, it's a utility. So you need the cloud. The question is where the information goes. That's that's up for grabs, I would say. Because if you look at like Susan said, Telekom itself, they're kind of a lumbering giant versus they're a huge ship versus someone at MIT Media Lab that's working on the next version of the cloud. So to put it to answer your question, it's not that easy. And I think there's going to be companies that obviously do things, you're going to use their services because you have a benefit to use them, like Gmail. The benefit is, it's easy. We have great filtering systems, et cetera, et cetera. The trade-off is you're going to be shown ads. And I think the point there is, maybe it's more interesting for Stephan, is people become blind to these things. You install ad blocker, you put in, there's ads in Gmail. I have Gmail privately too, but you start to ignore these things. So I know it might not sound that satisfying, my answer to you, and I don't think it's a very dystopian future like Blade Runner or whatever, but I think the cloud is something that we all can expect, and it's something you have to just be aware of, I guess. You want to?
Can I add something?
The last statement.
Yeah, I think companies that are investing in these things, and I include my own company, as obviously we're doing it as well, should invest the same amount of money, that we put into harvesting the data, hiring data analysts and so on, into data controls and privacy controls and so on, because we're actually really good at, getting access to data and segmenting them and making money out of them. That's pretty okay. We're able to do that. If we would put the same amount of energy, money, thinking into making this accessible and controllable, so this idea, for example, with and the dashboard, by the way, is a good example. To give the same, innovation speed to this side, to the control and transparency and download your data kind of thing. This could pave the way, to make it a non-dystopian thing, but a good one. And what I meant with losing control is pretty much a technical thing, It will not be possible to keep that data in your house, for example. We should just deal with the fact it will sit in the cloud. That's we should prepare for that, and we will not know where this cloud is being run, and perhaps we will not even know who is the owner of the cloud. That's just a fact, and perhaps we shouldn't, block our minds with thinking the data will be kept in the house. Rather, we should prepare, with these kind of ideas or standards or self-regulation or whatever, to say, make it transparent, make it controllable, make it a standard that data can be accessed and downloaded by the user and deleted if he wants, and so on.
Okay. Thanks to you all. quite interested what's going to happen in the future with the companies. Thank you.
Thanks.